Our next speaker that I'm going to introduce to you is inspiring to me because Tony Schultz and his partner Kat Becker are really living the economy and living the community that we would all like to enact in our whole state and in our nation. And so they are farming up outside of Athens, Wisconsin in Marathon County, a Stony Acres farm. They have a CSA, community supported agriculture farm, where people subscribe, families get a box of fresh vegetables once a week. They also have some beef for sale, I hear, so you might want to talk to Tony afterwards if you're interested in getting some progressive beef. And Tony, along with several of us, we organized the Tractorcade, Family Farm Defenders, and the Wisconsin Farmers Union came together to respond to the attack on workers and the attack on collective bargaining, to show our support and solidarity, and to remember the rich history in our state and in the upper Midwest especially of the link between farmer and labor. And you know, maybe Mike McCabe talked about a third party or a first party, that maybe we should take the lead of some other states and have a farmer labor party together. So I'll just put that out there as an idea. But I'm very excited to have this pleasure of introducing Tony Schultz. I know he will rile us up, and I hope that's not putting too much pressure on you there, Tony. But please welcome Tony Schultz.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Mike McCabe. He's from Clark County, farm boy. Now you're going to Marathon County. I'm a county over. And I'm wearing this shirt today because my brother told me I needed to be more subtle. But I've got a farm story for you. I grew up on a family dairy farm in Wisconsin, and I'm always so proud to look at our license plate and see that little red barn. And it means a lot to me that's on our license plate. And I'll tell you about what it means. And growing up on a family dairy farm, I always expected that I would farm as an adult. Being from Athens, Wisconsin, a rural community, I thought this is just how it was. Your grandfather immigrates here, and he homesteads a place, and he passes it on to your father, and he passes it on to you, and one day you would pass it on to your son or daughter. And it wasn't just because I was from a farm community that I thought this. There was this romanticized notion that we talk about in America and the media about the meaning, the history, and tradition, and mystique, and special place that the family farm is. And I felt destined and proud. For many years, Wisconsin displayed what could be called the American dream of agriculture, with many small family farms covering the countryside in this relatively egalitarian, agrarian economy that served as a basis for many happening, thriving little rural communities and the families that created them. However, my path back to the family farm was not so certain because the farm crisis hit home. When I was a senior in high school, I came home from football practice and got dressed to do chores, and we sat down to have dinner around the kitchen table. And my dad said that he was selling the cows. And this was devastating to me. It created my consciousness today. Not making any money and stifled by a pathetic and volatile commodity market, he was confronted with an economic trend in agriculture called get big or get out. Get big or get out. And not wanting to become a factory farm, he liquidated the cows, got out. I cried and begged, but the decision had been made not necessarily by him, but by the direction of the agricultural economy. And the farm crisis of the 80s hasn't stopped. It's 4 family farms. We continue to lose 4 family farms a day in the 2000s. We were losing, with a major hit in 2008 and 9 when milk prices plummeted. So pushed by my mother, I went to college, where I not only got an education degree, but I studied the economy and gained an understanding of what was driving the farm crisis: concentration, agribusiness control of markets, and agribusiness control of federal and state policies. In order to pay for college, I worked a construction job where I made some great friends. It helped offset some of my soaring tuition costs. But ironically, I spent my summers building factory farms. And as I gained an articulation of what was driving the farm crisis and what type of agricultural landscape I wanted to be a part of, I became disgusted by what I was doing as a 19-year-old kid. And despite the camaraderie and tuition help and immediate personal opportunity of that job, I quit. I had come to see that capitalism and an agribusiness-dominated federal policy had brought us to a crossroads in agriculture that could be described as a class war in the countryside. Factory farms are not the broad-based egalitarian landscape of neighbors sharing machinery, coming together to help each other out, pitching in to put on the county fair, helping out at the public school, volunteering their time in their local communities, purchasing locally to create other small businesses, and helping out at church functions. Factory farms are like mini serfdoms where the white owner lives in a McMansion off the site, white working class guys drive the tractor, and brown people shovel the shit. And that's how factory farms work in the state in that hierarchy. Brown people who are often denied the rights and benefits of citizenship so they can be exploited further. Factory farming has hastened an ecological crisis in this state. You don't put 8,000 cows in one spot because you care about the environment. Factory farmers don't look and see a rural community or an ecological landscape. They see a resource suck and they calculate a waste dump. Small family farms are inherently more environmentally sustainable because, like E.F. Schumacher, who wrote Small is Beautiful, said, small operations, no matter how numerous they are always less likely to be harmful to the environment than large-scale ones because their individual force is small in relation to the recuperative forces of nature. Small farms don't produce as much manure in one spot as the city of Milwaukee. They don't create Superfund sites, and they don't cause disastrous economic crises specifically because they are small. Factory farms aren't regulated because they want to be, but because the concentrations of manure they produce are a distinct threat to the environmental landscape and to human health. And in the meantime, my partner, Kat Becker, she was making her way to our family farm. And she's originally from the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Our friend from college, Sean Golding, says we're from different boroughs. And she, in high school, volunteered at a homeless shelter at a food pantry and was helping organize food drives. And she became shocked when she noticed that people who came to get food in our economy were workers. They were wearing their work clothes. The vast majority, 80% of people, are the working poor who are using food pantries. And this stuck out to her, and so she decided to study food policy and was going to study production, but soon came to realize, as she was studying this, that our crisis in global hunger is not a matter of production. It's a matter of distribution. It's a matter of distribution. And so she came to study at Madison. She went to the rural sociology department, and I became her case study, basically. And when we met, our relationship bloomed in Jess Gilbert's class, the sociology of agriculture. And she told me she daydreamed about having a farm, and I told her I had one. And that was my pickup line. And the romantic idea of the family farm became all the more romantic. And we decided to move back to the family farm and make it our own, because I had seen the crisis, the farm crisis, and I had seen the desperation of a lot of rural economies. But I had also seen, as a student in Madison, a lot of the new hope in agriculture. I had seen a booming organic market that created a lot of space, not perfect, but created a lot of space for family farms. I had seen family farmers taking on the environmental practice of rotational grazing because it was better for the land and better for their operations. And I had seen an incredible local food movement that I knew could sustain the family farms in many communities on many farms. Madison has the best farmers market in the country, many farmers markets all over. What are you doing here? You should be at the farmers market, right? It has many farmers markets springing up. They're springing up all over the place. If you're a town that has anything to say about itself, you have to have a farmers market. Madison, the CSA capital of the country. I saw that it's possible to have a local food movement that can sustain small family businesses, that can create healthier rural communities, rural economies, and healthier meals, a healthier environment. And what we saw happening is a struggle going on in this country between this sustainable, local, community-supported family farming and subsidy-driven, commodity-based agribusiness and factory farming. And we, meaning anyone who farms or eats, can have a system dependent on dangerous and cancer-causing inputs of pesticides, herbicides that create monocultures over vast tracts of land that are socially and ecologically dying. Or we can have a healthy system where farmers work with natural systems and techniques to create a safer and healthier meal and the environment. We can have a system where food is shipped from across the globe and you don't know what happened to it, how it was created, or we can have a system, food that's shipped on average 1,600 miles away, so it takes 100 times more calories to ship a strawberry than the strawberry provides in calories. Or we can have a system where food is shipped from next door, and you know the farmer, and you know you're supporting your local economy, and they're purchasing locally. And this is a very important piece of math I have next. We can have a system where one factory farmer controls 3,500 cows and exploits 50 people who are often denied the rights and benefits of citizenship, and treats their manure as a matter of disposal because you gotta get rid of it when there's so much of it, and the windows are small to apply it appropriately. Or we can have, instead of one with 3,500, we can have 50 families with 60 cows. 50 families with 60 cows. This is a radically different social, economic, and ecological order, and this has to be the cause of progressives wherever you are, urban, rural, suburban. This recognition is incredibly important to adjust economic landscape. By supporting the small family farms, we are fostering a broad-based and independent decision-making of economic democracy and a more sustainable agriculture. We are helping to break up the concentration of power and make room for values beyond the bottom line. We are trying to create beautiful and constructive settings to raise families, and we are supporting an economic system where more people can have meaningful control of their lives and something of their own, an empowering space in an interdependent world. The reason we've got a little red barn on our license plates is not simply because it's more aesthetically pleasing than an 8,000 cow manure lagoon. It's because that little red barn means a vastly superior social, economic, and ecological order. That's what that means. I didn't know this when I was a senior in high school, crying when we sold the cows, but it shapes my consciousness and drives what we do today. And it was this experience that broadened my awareness in terms of politics in general and allowed me to recognize the big question that I have to ask and answer all the time. We all have to ask and answer. What kind of world do we want to live in? What kind of world do we want to live in? And if we don't ask and answer this question, someone else is going to do it for us, and it's not going to be in our interests. It's not going to be in the broad interest. It's not going to be in the public interest. It is this experience that caused me to march in Madison with hundreds of farmers and hundreds of thousands of workers. It was this experience that caused me to bring my values into focus, progressive values, values that says if one person suffers injustice, we all suffer injustice. That it's not our goal to dominate our neighbors, it's our goal to love our neighbors as ourselves. To fight and to struggle for the values of self-determination and equality for all. And to call on family farmers to come together with that old popular front of workers, women, people of color, the LGBT community, immigrants, and anyone who doesn't have control of their price, their wage, but more fundamentally, their lives, and to engage in a struggle not only locally, but internationally, to cast off oppression and exploitation, to reject the politics of punitiveness, of greed, of exclusivity, and to say that the domination of our lives by a few is evil, and to say that we are here together, and I am here for you, and we shall overcome. And to say, in the words of Gene Debs, the earth for all people, that is the demand. Solidarity.